This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to Digital Perspectives, everybody. I'm Brad Kimes. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradley and everything we're talking about here today. A lot of people to thank here, and we'll get to that. But what we want to start with right now is we got a lot to talk about. Let's just get into this thing, okay? First of all, let's start with the Ripple IPO watch. No new news on the front, just checking in, letting you guys know I'm on it, right? Nothing yet, but we keep the Ripple IPO watch in effect. Okay, so now let's move to this, because what I want to talk about before we get in here is I want to talk about the current situation of the economy really quickly as a quick overview and just lay out very, very briefly where we have some trouble and why it's so important that we understand what Ripple and especially XRP's role is in helping solve the current problems that we're having around the world. Okay, so let's get started. One, currently right now, according to Forbes, July 24th, 2020, 30 million people are unemployed and more pain is on the way. That's the U.S. Census Bureau data right there. So looked at a couple other articles. That number seems to be pretty strong and accurate across the board when you look around at different things. So let's understand that 30 million people are unemployed right now, or at least filed for unemployment, partial employment, whatever it is. They're having trouble, right, from one extent to the other. So let's talk about this, because I put together a little whiteboard here. Houston, we have a problem. Well, not for us, because we have a different problem for us as XRP holders. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. But right now, Houston, we have a problem. The Fed has printed in upwards of $7 trillion now. I got to be honest, it's even hard to keep track of. The problem is that the money, as you can see, is going straight from the Fed and going into the markets. And what do I mean by that? Well, look, it's not uncommon for the Fed to buy government bonds. They've been doing that forever. But the problem is now, at historic levels, they've been buying private and corporate stocks and bonds. And that is because if we take a look at what happened when everything went horrible and went south, right? And I'll move this out of the way. We saw the market completely tank, is what we saw. The Fed panicked. They knew they had to step in. They realized better than we even did that we've been reporting on a liquidity crisis here with me and co-host Cryptopolis since last year. They understand better than anybody that there was a liquidity crisis. And then the pandemic hit, right? Or plandemic, if you will. And by the way, I mean no disrespect. I've had a family member who had the virus, and I just want to say I'm glad that I can say that they are feeling better and they're doing well, and that's amazing. We are not unaffected by it, and I'm not dismissive of it. But I do believe the numbers have been inflated or conflated, however you would like to say it. So, very real situation. I certainly take all the necessary precautions, but there was a crisis that was here before the health crisis happened. So, we see the Fed printing money in extraordinary levels, historic levels, 7 trillion printed. What's the problem with that? The problem is the money goes right from the Fed into the markets and the large institutions to buy back all of these things. Why are they buying it back, Brad? Well, they're buying it back so you can see something that looks a little more like this. You see the size of that? That's the shot from today before the market opened up. Before the market opened up at about 8:30 when I screenshotted this, the market is showing 27,000 points and we're up 373 points. Guys, I just told you 30 million people are unemployed. Where's the money coming from? Look, I know a shell game when I see one, and I think you do too. The money isn't coming from the people because 30 million of us are unemployed. The money is coming from the Fed. And the Fed is buying everything up, so this number stays green. If printing money was a solution, then all we would ever really need is the quantity of money, right? That's all we would ever need is the quantity of money. I love this illustration here because it shows the quantity of money is like a big hippopotamus kind of thing, right? Yeah. It just slow piles of money. Because without the velocity of money, like a jaguar, properly moving through the system, working in tandem with business and customers to create the velocity of money, which is how quickly it can move from hand to hand to be spent, which means I have to hold less of it the more it keeps moving around between all of us, which is the larger notion of what Ripple's doing with the implementation of XRP to begin with for the large institutions and banks of the world. Because back in the last crisis we had in '08, the hedge funds collapsed, the real estate markets collapsed, right? Why? Well, because they kept repackaging bad loans and selling them over and over and over again. Hot potato until somebody got left holding the hot potato, or musical chairs and somebody got left without a chair. When the markets collapsed, the central banks had no choice but to bail out the hedge funds and all of those that had suffered and fell into collapse. Well, that's basically a version of kicking the can down the road because you didn't solve the problem. All you did was move the debtor, the person who was in trouble, from the hedge funds to the central banks. Well, they don't have the room. They don't have the headroom to adjust. So now they're out of room. And now this time, the reason it's bigger, the problem is bigger, is because the central banks have no one to turn to. Who's going to bail them out? Even if there was an entity to bail them out, they're smart enough to know not to. I'm not going to throw good money after bad. Right? So they have to bail themselves out. Well, how are they going to do that, Brad? Well, as wild as it seems, because I tell you what, I know Digital Asset Investor has, we've taken a lot of heat for being extremely positive in a down market. In fact, I've seen the weak leave. I'm telling you right now, what I really see now is, more than ever in my life, in this time of investing in this incredible investment of Ripple and XRP, is it really is going to be used and do the things that it says it can do, because it has use case. It actually can do what it says it can do. And I think it could do a lot more even. But the reality is, if you don't stop printing money and just propping up a market, this is not an economy make here. This is not an economy make. You have to have people with jobs and money in their pocket and spending. This is a false sense of an economy that doesn't really exist. This number really isn't real. You've got to get people back to work and get the velocity of money rolling. How are you going to do that? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to alleviate the pain for the central banks at the top. The people who are currently printing all of the money that is turning into a hippopotamus because it can't get moving, because it never trickles down to the people. The only way to do that is for them to start to use an asset like XRP for settlement. This will create the velocity of money. This will allow them over time to release the dormant capital from the Nostro Voco's accounts and use that money to bail themselves out. Interestingly enough, Jim Rickards points out the same exact thing about the velocity of money. 7 trillion printed times 0 equals 0. No velocity, no economy. Yep. Look at it falling right here. Terrible. Then we see Spencer H. sends me from the Arab Monetary Authority, showing here that Santander OnePay FX, who has clearly said, hey, we're not using XRP and we don't intend to in the future. Well, maybe that's because they intend to use a remittance company to do it. That's what MoneyGram was all about. Showing the regulators and the world, the banks and others, that, hey, we'll take the mitigated risk of holding the asset and settling these things for you. I've asked this question a lot on this channel. How much is an asset like XRP worth that everyone needs to use, but no one truly needs to hold? Well, it's a lot at my house. They could clear the path for banks to hold this asset. Just call it a currency, because it's what it is. Or if you don't feel like you can give it that designation, then set it up the way they did with MoneyGram so the remittance service providers of the world can hold the asset and they can take the mitigated risk for the banks. Here's what we do know on top of that, and shout out to Spencer H. XRP daily trade volume increases by 400%. You know what? I believe that they're starting to buy it back, like Ripple has said, to buy back XRP off the secondary markets, as well as other clients and customers beginning to buy it back off the market. The secondary markets, by the way, are the exchanges you and I buy it from. That means Ripple's a customer holding XRP just like you and I are retail investors holding XRP, or any other bank or entity, remittance company, payment provider, you know the drill. Which means they don't really control the escrow at my house. They may have it set up in a cryptographically auto-lock escrow account, but it tells me that there's a lot further separation between the escrow and Ripple, the blockchain infrastructure company, and that is one of the healthiest signals I've seen. Bob Way said on this channel the idea over time was that we have less and less to do with XRP, or we're not doing our job right. It's a decentralized asset. He's absolutely right. That's what the accelerator program, where the XRP, $300 million worth of XRP was pre-allocated to disseminate through the different industries and clients and customers of the world, to get them to hold it and begin to use it at some point with contractual understanding that they wouldn't just dump it on the market, because it ain't money unless everyone agrees it's money. Well, let me tell you, we're starting to see people see that this is money. Swiss Route now offers Swift and Ripple in one platform. With Swiss Route RippleNet TM adapter, processing transactions through RippleNet TM will be easier. We covered this yesterday when it came out, but we're talking about it again under the understanding of the macro of what's going on here. I have said for a long time that I believe RippleNet is the new digital arm to Swift. RippleNet is not Ripple. Ripple is a blockchain infrastructure company. RippleNet is a collective or consortium of RippleNet partners that contribute on a cloud-based network that has governance and compliance plugged in and built into it, that can source all of the customers for any of the needs they need inside their network. It, to me, is and has been the new digital arm to Swift. Well, now they're side by side. Now they're side by side. Here's the actual document that actually breaks that down. It is a big deal. Then we have here a document we got yesterday from Michael Val, 5 links, GPI Financial Institution Transfers Early Adopter Program, which shows us, if it's accurate, it looks like they're supposed to launch somewhere, and it's funny, they leave out October, and that is the beginning of the 4th quarter, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They are testing in this moment right now in August if this timeline is still accurate for early adopter program draft timeline. If it is in fact still on target. It shows a go live date with the early adopters in December. Well, I have to say, understanding that Ripple is the only person or company that has been brought into the ISO 2022 standards body to focus on the distributed ledger technology. It looks a lot like, to me, ladies and gentlemen, that the world may have a problem. The banks certainly have a problem, but us as XRP holders, the way I see it, we have a different problem. We're going to need a bigger boat. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Make sure you share with somebody you know. Do not forget, get on the Rich List, this free monthly newsletter. I'm telling you, it's going to be coming out next week. Going to be so much stuff in there that you're going to get that's exclusive to you. No one else. It will be to you. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I am out of here. Here is the outro from the one and only Mike Jansen. I got to get this stuff really loaded in my operating system, but I will. I promise you guys. But this is remarkable. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to all of you for being here today. We'll catch you on the next one.